Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the On Season. We are here with you guys on a Friday night. Thanks for enjoying your Friday night with us. A little change for us. We had a last minute kind of scheduling conflict. We're usually on Thursdays, but we're happy to be hanging out with you guys on a Friday night. Of course, we are live on YouTube. Please come on over, hit the little bell, subscribe, help support Jason and I in this adventure we like to call in the On Season. Tonight's episode, we're gonna catch you up on some pro day news. There's been a flurry of pro days this past week. We're gonna take you through some of the important ones, some of the topics and notable things that we thought were important. And then we're gonna dive into the linebacker and safety group, a group the Dolphins could be dipping their fingers in, especially that safety group. I know Jason and I really like the top of this safety class, and there's a starter in there for us. Let me bring you in. Let me bring my partner in crime in. Jason, how you doing this Friday night, man?
Happy Friday, George, and thank you for everybody out there starting your weekend with us. I hope all is well.
Yes, and we're kind of excited to be on a Friday night. You know, it's a little different, so it's got a different vibe. You know, maybe have a drink in your hand here. This should be the weekend coming up. All right, so I think we're going to start a little bit. Should we get into the pro day stuff?
Let's rock and roll. A couple of big prospects making some times on pro days.
All right, we're going to get into the pro days. It's not everybody. It's not every pro day. Just the ones we thought were notable for the Dolphins and us here. Let's bring it up. All right, let's start here. The LSU Pro Day. Big one here is Mason Taylor, the tight end. Didn't run at the combine. The 4.65, plenty fast enough, about what I expected, what I saw on film. I think the big thing here is, Jason, the 28 bench reps. Sure. I look at that a lot for a tight end, especially who can hold up in kind of inside and be sort of that multi-dimension tight end we lack. We have a pass catcher, but then we have just a straight Y inline tight end. This guy can maybe do a little bit of both. He's really shown it's an encouraging sign. He's cemented himself into the second round.
Oh, 100%. And I think that, everyone loves the fact that, yes, he's Jason Taylor's son. He's Zach Thomas's nephew. I get that. But what he did at the combine what he did at the pro day was just solidifying himself as a football prospect. In fact, you see the 4.65. That's good enough for what would have been the second best tight end dash at the combine this year if that was at the NFL combine. And a couple of scouts even clocked him at a 4.59. So if you could even just kind of get into that sub 4.6, as some scouts were initially reporting, that's just raising his stock. And I think his ability as an inline blocker, now you could use the intangible of Jason Taylor's son here, because Jason Taylor, one of the greatest pass rushers ever, probably could have that good coaching aspect with Mason on how to block guys like that, on how to kind of help out in that game. I love the fact that Mason is an offensive prospect getting the tutelage from two of the best defenders that the Dolphins have ever had in his relatives. So, absolutely love the pedigree, and he's a terrific kid to boot. Outstanding clutch performer. I think he's a top 50. I think if the Dolphins are looking at number 48, I get it that there are other positions that might be more important, but it would be a tough move to pass on him in 48. And I'm not even discounting him going a little higher.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the floor for him, almost that 48 to 50 range. And you made a great point. I forget more and more about he's Jason Taylor's son and Zach's nephew as the more I watch him. He's a really good football player. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's a guy, I think, of all the guys we're looking for, we want somebody who can block and catch, right? Like, we're tired of having one or the other. To me, besides obviously Warren, right, he's kind of a guy who I think got the best shot to be really good at blocking and also can give you some stuff in the seam and downfield. You would agree with that? Maybe Warren.
Like a poor man's Warren.
Yeah. Loveland's more of a big receiver. I mean, he's special running routes. And we'll get to next week or the week after, we're on tight end. So I'm looking forward kind of to that group. And then we have Will Campbell. I put him up here. Obviously, he's a guy at 13. The arm length was at 32 and a half or so. And then it grew to 33, which is, I know it's like a half an inch or a quarter of an inch, but it's a big deal, right? Especially there's kind of a minimum for a tackle arm length, and it kind of rests at 33, right? That's on the low side. So for him, I've always seen him as a tackle, Jason, but I think he's a guy you can put at left guard. He just plays a little upright for me for guard, but like he's a guy you put at left guard day one for a year. He can do that too, but like the arm length, I think helped him for the tackle position even more. And it's been a crazy year with measurements.
It has. I mean, and whatever it's running, the measurements, there's fluctuations, what have you, but these matter. You know, numbers couldn't move you up around 5 picks, 7 picks, 20 picks. So a guy like Campbell, it was a benefit for him to have that increased, to get to the 33. But what was interesting to me is that he said at his interview on the pro day is that 2 teams asked about the guard. So that's like a wink, wink, and you're hoping if you're a Dolphins,
we're one of them.
Right. I mean, ideally, if you're talking about a guy who's a tackle who could play guard for the Dolphins, you really want him to be able to play guard, which would mean that you're okay with the development of Patrick Paul. You're okay, obviously, with Austin Jackson, and you don't want to kind of prove that the second-round pick of Patrick Paul last year was not good. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't the right play. So you hope that develops. So if Campbell is there at 13, and the Dolphins are one of those teams that say, hey, you mind playing guard? And if he's good with that, they're good with that. That's in play for Miami.
Yeah, I mean, look, I ultimately think his best home is left tackle, but like Laremy Tunsil came in here and played guard year one.
Yeah, he did. Brandon Albert was
right. And we don't have Brandon Albert right now currently on the roster.
No, we do not.
We all have hopes for Patrick Paul, but it's not, he's not guaranteed. There's a lot to find out here. Again, I like Patrick Paul more than I thought he would coming out, based on some of the stuff. He had an up and down year last year. I know if you read into the PFF numbers, he had a pretty bad year, but I'm more of a look at my eyes, what do I see kind of guy. But let's bring up that chart real quick. I think it's the one with because it makes sense here with what we're talking about with the measurements. So this might be a little small. I found this chart. I just thought it was interesting. This year, it's a weird year since like COVID. This is the least amount of guys I think are running and testing. And then I don't know if you guys can see it, but like the difference of measurements from like a showcase to the combine or a pro day is crazy. Like you see Will Campbell down there was 32.58, I think, at the combine. And now he's 33, 30. So 3/8 of an inch. So, and there's just a whole bunch of them. I mean, you take down the list. What do you think's going on this year? It's crazy, Jason.
I don't know. Maybe the agents are figuring out ways to kind of, stretch them out. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I mean, who knows? But, there are weird stories in a lot of these metrics that come out. A former Dolphin or another Dolphin who was going through this process a while ago had 240 times at his pro day, one against the wind, one with the wind. So you use one of those times. So a lot of these stories about measurements, they're a little odd, but this is very odd, having more than a dozen off measurements for just something as simple as arm.
I know that I've heard this has been frustrating scouts kind of on the ground there. So teams, I think, they're just settling with like their number they trust. Because this stuff does matter. It's small little things, but it does matter because they have there's numbers that say this is the minimum requirement for this position for them to succeed. Like it's analytics too, right? So it is important. I don't remember a year where it's just crazy, So I just thought that chart was interesting. You can find it somewhere. I found it somewhere online. I don't remember, but I would like to give credit to the person who put this out, but I don't remember where I found it. But yeah, so let's bring up back the LSU Pro Day. And Will Campbell, 33-inch arms. The other guys here, more middle, late round, day 3 guys. Kyron Lacey was really, really highly touted coming out. Ran 6'2", 215, ran 4'6", 33-inch vertical. And then Savion Jones, the edge, ran 4'7", at 283. Any of these two guys, middle round, day 3 guys, any of these two guys catch your interest? I just thought Savion Jones is guy and Lacey, the receiver.
I mean, I think there are other guys who might be more intriguing and interesting for the Dolphins. Nothing against those two prospects. So if there's anybody on this list that I would say, hey, round 3, round 4, Dolphins should be considering maybe Miles Frazier. You know, if they do not go with Campbell or any other interior guard prospect, interior offensive line prospect, Frazier is a guy you could circle.
Even if you go high, you come back in the 4th round and take him. Let's shore up the position. Let's put no doubts to it. You know, this is kind of, and even adding free agents, I'm all for shoring this position up with more ways than one. So yeah, Miles Frazier is a good middle round prospect. Yes, I think that does it for the LSU Pro Day. Let's move on here to the U. So I know down here a lot of folks, this one caught your attention. I actually watched this Pro Day. They had it on the ACC network, I believe. Let's start with Restrepo. I know people are going crazy about the 40 time, 4.81. You know, I was surprised he ran that low, right? But when I had Bobby from the Dive Bar podcast, he mentioned that he's friends with the kind of trainer. He kind of changed trainers. He thought he was going to run in the 4.6. So there was some frustration there with him, but he's a chain mover, great route runner. I even suggest a team that drafts Cam Ward, if they can get this guy in the 3rd round, pick him up. He's such a safety blanket for Cam. I'm not worried about the 40 time. I think if he runs it again, he could run in the 4.6. It's kind of like Jarvis Landry, you know, one of our favorites. Are you worried about the speed of Restrepo, Jason?
Not really, with his ability to get open in his routes. You know, I think he's just a really good football player when you put the pads and helmets on and don't worry about this 40-yard nonsense. I mean, there are some players who I think can get around it. Did this hurt his draft stock? Yes, it absolutely did. I'm not going to say that it didn't. Yeah. Scouts are going to be obsessed with these numbers. Teams are going to be obsessed with these numbers. But ultimately, he could be, I hate using this word, he could be an outlier in a good way when someone says, all right, you ran a 4.81, but no one can guard him, and he's picking up first downs all the time. The Jarvis Landry comparison, I get it. Yeah, sure. You know, Landry was a bit faster. He's also coming off an injury when he clocked those times too, I believe. So, yes, we can kind of go to that. But like Landry, I think he could just be a big-time factor when you're actually playing the game and not worrying about just sprinting.
Yeah, he's a chain mover.
Correct.
He gets first downs. And we'll obviously when we get into the receivers in a week or two, we'll get more into Restrepo. Yep. But I'm curious to see if he'll run again. Maybe you never know. He might want to try to lower that time. But again, everybody who's watching anywhere else but YouTube, come on over to YouTube, guys. We appreciate this support. Make sure you hit that little subscribe button. Also, put on the notification so you find out when we go live, and also hit that like button. All right, we'll go to Cam Ward last. Arroyo ran routes for Ward, looked good. Looks fast. Didn't test or run the 40. So that was curious to me. But I got no issues. His tape and the way he looks, even in these passing drills for the quarterback, in the Senior Bowl week, he killed it. Do you have an issue with him not really running?
No, because he did very well for himself in that Senior Bowl evaluation. So I don't think there's a reason for him. I think he's in that top 5 tight end range, which gets him into that top probably 110 pick range. You know, so you're looking at him as a day 2 pick, most likely, in all likelihood. So I don't think that there's anything that could incredibly spike him for testing. So I think he did fine by just not doing anything at the Pro Day that much.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of these guys, there's a list of guys that said they worked out. None of them really tested or run. They maybe did some on-field. So I'm just giving you the most notable things that happened. Like one of the guys that worked out is Simeon Barrow Jr., the D lineman. I like him a lot. He ran 4.88 at 290 pounds. So he's a late round option. You know, some of these UM guys become better pros than college players because of their traits, and he's one of these guys. Keep an eye on late in the draft. But the big news that came out of there, which had CBS Sports and ESPN down there, and all the draft nicks, was Cam Ward. Didn't run, didn't test, didn't need to. Absolutely unbelievable throwing session. Showed the quick release. He just has this kind of confidence about him when he plays, and you just kind of everything is with poise and the arm and the velocity on the ball. He looks like he definitely secured himself for pick number 1, whether that's the Titans or the Giants or the Browns trade up or something. But I think as this process has gone on, it seems like the Titans have fallen in love with this kid, and he probably go 1-1 to Tennessee. What did you think of Cam Ward?
Yeah, no, he wanted to come on in there and solidify himself as the first overall pick. I think he did that, and you mentioned there could be some teams in the mix to trade up, but the Titans in this day and age, if you have a chance to get a quarterback who could be generational, you're going to have to go with the quarterback. So I would think the Titans should stay put. I loved your idea about getting Restrepo in there a couple of rounds later. That would be a really savvy move by a team like Tennessee. So, you have a good opportunity there, and Cam Ward, I definitely think, is the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I didn't think the Titans were going to take him early in this process, but he's the type of kid that you kind of get to know. They got to know, and then maybe they said, "Wow, he's a leader," and that's what
this
Cam
is
Ward
for.
is.
That's what this process is for.
All right, the Alabama Pro Day, not much going on. You guys could just look at one thing. I've been banging the table for. If we're going to take one, all right, and that's probably have to be pick 48. That's Jalen Milroy running a 4.37. I mean, there's times 4.41 on some clocks, but I'm going with the general consensus here. 4.37. I've always said from the beginning, I want to take a shot, whether it's a small percentage, Jason. I know you've been against this, right? Not against it, but you haven't been for it. If we can get a Jalen Hurts or one of these athletic freaks at the position, it's something I want to try. We haven't seen it. This is where the league is going. So these athletes at quarterback, and he's the only one really in this class. It just confirms my point. If it's a small percent chance, but there's a chance.
Sure, definitely a chance. I think he gets drafted before 48, frankly.
Yeah, I agree.
For the Dolphins, I think that it could open up too many issues and a whole can of worms instead of moving the needle forward because, obviously we know Tua, but you want to see what you can do to put the best people around and see if he could get over that hump, So I don't think bringing in a quarterback in the top 2 picks is a greater good scenario.
Yeah, I don't think it's very likely at all. But I will say they're looking at middle round quarterbacks.
That's different story.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're paying for.
That's where the space they're going to live in here. Yeah. Maybe around 4 or 5. They've been visiting with Tyler Shuck. I know they have Quinn Ewers in the top 30 visit, but I know, Jason, you agree with me. These whole top 30 visits, and we went to this pro day, we went to that one. A lot of this stuff is trying to mislead information. Check back. Most of the guys you went to top 30 visit I remember last year, Xavier Worthy pro day. Everybody was making a big deal of the picture of Mike McDaniel. Well, pick 21. And Xavier Worthy was on the board, and they didn't take him. So, and I didn't see any Chop Robinson photos, right? if I'm mistaken last year. So, I'm not as much on the whole pro day thing as everybody else. Like, it means, they're going to draft this guy. They're going to visit with a lot of guys. All right.
You're doing your due diligence. It's like any other job interview. Everybody for a job opening has multiple candidates. You don't really just see one person and say, bang, it's you. So, it's just part of the process.
Yeah. So, now, this pro day here is pretty big, right?
Yes.
This one is there's very well likely could be a guy on this list here that is pick 13.
This could be a Dolphin. One of these names could very well be a Dolphin.
You want to start with Kenneth Grant here?
I think Kenneth Grant, look, a lot of people have him in round 2. A lot of people say I would love him at 13. And that's an interesting polarization for a top 13 potential pick. But there's 1 or 2 players that could be probably the biggest no-brainer, instant production and future just solid players. Kenneth Grant could be one of them. Good size, good speed, could play nose tackle, could play different areas if needed on the defensive line, could really help your run defense, can be a factor in the pass rush. He is a no-brainer pick at 13, as well as Will Johnson. But I don't think you can get someone as talented as Grant in the second round. You can get a defensive lineman because it's a deep class, sure. But I think he would be a home run pick at 13 or even a grand slam if
it is a deep class, but there's not a lot of 6'3", 330 guys.
Exactly.
I actually thought he'd run better. I thought he got a chance to go sub 5. It's plenty fast enough. I think the most impressive number on there is the vertical jump at 31 inches for a guy who's 330. That's impressive. What's great about him is, don't mistake it, he's not just a nose, Jason.
Correct.
Listen, you guys can go back, check our defensive tackle show. Let's plug that show where we talked about Kenneth Grant.
Mm-hmm.
He can play 3 tech, even 5 tech. Like, he's versatile, but he also gives you that size to play kind of the nose, because I think we need to upgrade also from Benito Jones. I liked Benito, what he did, but he wasn't great last year. You know what I mean? He was just better than we expected. And sometimes we look at that in a vacuum and say it was really good, right?
You also need bodies. I mean, with the Anthony Weaver rotation of these defensive linemen, you're going to need multiple players. We don't know what's going on with Calais Campbell exactly. You need bodies on this defensive line. So guy like Grant would absolutely work. If you trade down to the 20s and you draft Grant, oh my God, is that a grand slam?
Yeah. I think he's in play at 13, though.
I agree.
I think a lot of teams like him more than maybe – remember, there's the media perception and there's what the league perception is, right? And when you see a guy fall, oh, he fell to the third round. No, because we had it wrong. The league had him as a third-round guy, right? And sometimes they're right, we're wrong, and sometimes it's vice versa. Will Johnson. Now, this is a guy the Dolphin fans fantasize about falling to 13. He didn't test, but he will hold a private workout. I don't know what's that on April 14th. I don't know what that's going to entail. But I do know if he runs in really well, he probably doesn't get to 13. So kind of in a weird way, if you want him at 13, you almost don't want him to run, right?
I mean, look, if the Dolphins need a cornerback, an outside boundary cornerback, and Will Johnson would have to, I think, quote unquote, fall, as you mentioned, to 13. If he puts out great information and rumor is his speed is excellent, yeah, he's probably going to be a 9, 10, 11 pick, and just the Dolphins are just going to miss him. But you make a good point. If someone could kind of shadily say, hey, don't run, or if that's like, don't spike your value.
Yeah, we got a promise at 13 for you.
It's like, we love you at 9, but you can't miss at 13, so
right.
We'll see what happens with him, but he is another Michigan Wolverine in play at 13 should he be available.
Yeah, Beach Waves. Thank everybody in the chat, Elwood, Finn, Sammy, Costa, Beach Waves. Yeah, and thank you for coming in the chat. And yeah, he was hurt last year. I think he had 2 injuries, a shoulder injury, and the major one was like the turf toe injury. So he's still recovering, had a little bit of a down year, but he's going to work out on the 14th. I don't know what that entails, but that's something we got to really circle back and keep our eye on. Mason Graham did field drills, didn't run a 40, probably won't run a 40. His tape's good enough. I don't think a tenth of a second up or down is going to matter with Mason Graham. And again, Loveland didn't test. We'll get to him more. We get to the tight ends. Great elite pass catching tight end. All right, let's move on to Notre Dame. This one to me is the defensive backs here. We'll talk about one today in Xavier Watts, and he ran a 4.56. And then Benjamin Morris, the cornerback we talked about last year, didn't run but bench 17. I think those two guys are real possibilities at 48 for the Dolphins.
Absolutely, both of them are very good leader candidates. Potential captains in the NFL. Watts, I really love his ability at safety. We'll talk a little bit more about him later in the show. And Morrison, for our defensive back show a couple weeks ago, we
it was a great show.
Talked much about him as well. So good player. Definitely, like I said earlier, cornerback is a need, and Morrison could fit.
Probably, would you say our biggest need right now, right?
Arguably,
yeah.
That defensive tackle. The offensive line, yes, there's 3 equal needs.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and the other guys, late round linebacker Kaiser. I like Kaiser, a little small, but he's a good athlete, good special teams player. And then the tight end Mitchell Evans, I thought it was interesting. He improved. He ran a 4.74 at the combine, went down to 4.69. He's a good day 3 tight end prospect. So let's move on. I think that's about it on Notre Dame, right? All right.
Pretty much, yep.
Last one, the Penn State. This one, we're going to talk about Winston Jr. I know you like him a lot. So do I. Ran 4.50. Was able to punch those numbers in our player profile. And then Jalen Reed's the other safety, who's probably more early day 3, you would say. Jalen Reed.
Yeah, Winston's probably a higher prospect.
Could sneak in late round 3. Both of these guys are really good. I think the 40 time numbers are about what I thought they'd be for these guys, right?
Well, it was impressive with Winston coming off an ACL injury last September and running the 4.45 at the pro day, or some scouts had it at 4.45, 4.50 officially.
September ACL,
but if you're going to look at an injury and you're going to see if speed has been detrimented by it, this is not the case. So that injury should not plummet his value. He's really hanging in that top 80, top 90 range. Yeah.
And remember, if it did deteriorate a little bit, it's only going to get, as time removes itself from that ACL injury in September. We'll talk about him coming up here. And Tyler Warren didn't test. Big 6'5.5", 256.
No need.
So that wraps up for the pro days. Again, we'll try to keep you updated maybe the next week again if there's anything that happens. I mean, there's so many of them, but again, a lot of these guys haven't worked out. So we try to bring you some of the ones we thought were most kind of important for the group. All right, so what are you thinking, Jason? You ready to get into some safety and linebacker group?
Absolutely. One of them is a little bit more important positionally for the Dolphins.
So we'll probably start off. We'll start with the linebackers. Okay. But there is some linebackers, a couple that I love. You know that there is some linebackers. One of them is on my man crush list. But again, before we get into that, guys, come over to YouTube if you're watching anywhere else. Subscribe to the channel. Help support us. Give us that thumbs up. I know it's a pain in the butt to keep asking, but it really just takes a second, and it really means a lot to the channel, more than you can imagine. So thank you. All right. So I think we should get into it now. Our favorite part, scouting these prospects. Let's start with the linebackers. All right. So here we are at the top of the list here. Not much to be said here. This guy came to Alabama. When I look down, I'm looking at my notes. I'm going to take a picture of all my notes. It's red and blue ink everywhere. And it's just, for some reason, my green screen, you can't see them, but like it's crazy. And sometimes I got to look down. But yeah, he came to Alabama as an edge rusher, right? Highly recruited kid, came to Alabama, primarily played off ball in the edge at Alabama, but he's your prototypical Alabama linebacker, the size 6'3", 244, explosive speed, great range sideline to sideline, good zone coverage ability. Question is, where do I see him in the NFL? As a Mike or a Will or weak side or strong side linebacker. And should I explain what that means, Jason, a little bit? Sometimes I don't want to think I'm too smart, but like just to kind of give, because a lot of the times I don't really know some terms and some things, and I wish somebody would explain it. But so basically, the linebacker, there's three linebackers. You start with your Mike. That's the guy in the middle, right? He's the quarterback of the defense. Usually, he's at the very center. He's usually the leader of the defense. But his main job is obviously to cover the middle of the field. Sure up the run game. He's got to be a really good tackle and strong up the middle. Those are the guys who usually are not the best in coverage. Would you say, Jason? Like they're more, the thumper, right? The middle linebacker.
Plugging through the gap, stopping the run game, absolutely. Leader on the field for sure.
All right, and then there's a lot of the smaller, more athletic guys. Those are kind of the weak side linebackers. And the reason is you want those guys that play away from the ball so they can kind of chase and pursuit, also blitz. They're really good in coverage. They play opposite of the strong side. Those are called the will linebackers. The strong side linebackers are the guys who play on the strong side, which is over the tight end. Those guys, you want to be – they're often bigger, more physical, able to set the edge more, able to blitz and rush the edge. So, and a lot of these guys can play multiple. I'll just kind of give you an idea of what strong side, weak side, middle is. I'm sure you guys can go online and look it up. I'm not just pretending to be the smartest guy in the room, but just to help you guys, maybe if I say that and you don't understand kind of what it is, maybe that'll help. All right, sounds good, right? Okay, so let's get back to Campbell. What do you think? 13, right? Now, this could be, let's say this happens and they pick Campbell and everybody's shocked. But I've said take the best players available on the board, get them in the building, and worry about it later. He's immediately your best linebacker, and he's arguably, probably in league circles, could be the best player available on 13. Like, there's a world that happens, right? I don't know how likely it is, but do you think this guy is worthy of pick 13?
Worthy of pick 13 for anybody who might pick him? Yes, absolutely. For the Dolphins specifically, look, you can't argue with the best player available mindset. I think their linebacking group is good. It's not outstanding, but you have a Jordan Brooks. You bring back a Ty Dodson. So, look, you mentioned sometimes bringing in the best player in the building and worrying about it later. It's not the worst idea in the world. I know a lot of people would love this pick as a player. So I won't argue it if that's the situation because he is that prototypical linebacker. He's a stat stuffer. He's going to get sacks. He's going to get tackles for loss. He's going to help in coverage. He's going to do everything. Not going to hate it, but I don't think it's the way to go if you're the Dolphins this particular year. But it would be tough to pass up on him at 13 for anybody.
Yeah, I see him as a stacked linebacker, man, just running chase. He's just explosive, and like his pass rush moves. He came as an edge rusher, like I mentioned, from Alabama, but he just wins with speed and a little bit of bend he has. He doesn't have like this great toolbox of pass rush. He's not He's not a primary edge rusher. Don't mistake it. But he adds that versatility and just if you know what Alabama linebackers are like, he's one of them. The tape is absolutely phenomenal.
He's a monster.
Dude, the LSU tape was great. I suggest anybody go watch that. And when you see against those big time competition is where I always say I want to watch tape of guys that I don't want to watch them against Rice University, right? You're playing in the SEC, you're going to put on good film against guys who are going to be playing in the NFL because there's just SEC guys all over the place, especially he goes up against them, in practice at Alabama. Yeah, 13, worthy of the pick. And I think you make a good point. We're not great at linebacker. I know everybody doesn't say it's a big need. Like, we're not special there, right? Like, I like Jordan Brooks, but after him, how do we know Tyrell Dodson? Like, that was a small sample size, right?
I like Ty Dodson.
Yeah.
I do. Is Channing Tindall going to finally burst out onto the happy birthday to Channing?
Happy birthday, Channing Tindall.
His years man. But, is this a position where people could sit back and say, yeah, we're fine for 4 years? The answer is no, but there are higher priorities, I believe.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. All right, let's move on to the next guy. Oh, boy.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
All right, so you guys know when I move up to the mic and I say I love a guy, I love a guy. All right, it's not just because the beautiful blonde curly locks there, Jason, right? Like, he's on my man crush list, and I'll put that man crush list. I don't know if Jason, are you going to join me on a man crush list at some point?
I got a list. I got a list. But again, the linebackers for me.
Hey, we all got our type. Right? Okay, so this is my first dream scenario, right? I told you about it when I thought let's do Kenneth Grant at 13, and let's do Schlesinger, who I don't think will be there now at 48, because it was like that Tim Bowens, Zach Thomas kind of thing. Because let me tell you something about Schlesinger. His instincts out of this world. They're top notch. They're 10 out of 10. He runs the route. He runs the running back lane before the running back sees it, right? And that makes I don't know what he'll run in the 40, but it's like, remember Zach? Maybe he ran a 4.7, but he was so fast to get there because he read the lane before the running back did. And that was him. And he's a fluid athlete. I was worried about his size, but he weighed in at 242 at the combine. I know you guys can feel my passion on this player. I love him. Like we said, we're not great at linebacker, only good. This kid right here, huge fan. And he's fluid athlete, and he's a special teams demon. Can struggle with the big blockers, but nothing crazy, right? Like he's not the biggest thumper, but he just makes the plays and the tackles. He's always around the ball. His instincts, I can't tell you enough, Jason. They're out of control. I'm so passionate about this guy, Chris Greer. You can't make a mistake here. I like him better than Jack Campbell. That came out. Wow. What's up, Dybart? How you doing?
That was everybody's crush last year.
Yeah.
2 years ago, whatever it was. But Schlesinger is a guy, high motor, was a walk-on. And now, last year just came out of nowhere in 2024, had 90 solo tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, gets back in coverage, a couple of passes defended. You mentioned the special team. Look, a lot of these linebackers, all these linebackers pretty much can play special teams, but there's 3 or 4 on the guys that we're going to go over that are fantastic at it. He could be one of them, and that's an intangible you look for with linebackers, especially once you get into day 2, day 3. So for me, is he the 48th pick? I wouldn't be upset, but there's a lot of need. If the Dolphins trade back, pick up some more picks, that would be phenomenal.
You said he went to walk on to All-American at UCLA.
Hey, I love that story.
Here's the thing, man. I know you say we have other needs, but I just know he's going to be really good. Like when you have a conviction, again, take the best player. Get it. We don't have enough great players. Like, besides the weapons on offense, like on defense, I'm not in love with the linebacker core. Like playmaker. Like you like Van Ginkel? This guy's a juiced up linebacker, but a real linebacker, not a schemed up linebacker. This guy is a true. I see him more as a weak side linebacker, but hey, would you give him a shot inside? I would, right? So I'm just a huge fan. Like when you have the conviction of a guy's going to be that good, like you just know it, dude. I don't think there's maybe 10 more players in this draft I have that conviction on, like that kind of conviction, right? I don't know what to level, but like it's going to be a really good pro. Like he's one of those 10 to 15 guys I feel really good about, Jason.
Nothing wrong with that. He's got the proofs in the pudding the last couple of months. He's skyrocketed up everybody's board.
This is my guy. Savanea, him, Kenneth. These are my guys. Again, I don't know if I did. Shout out to the dive bar. Dude, these guys are doing incredible things. Cater Kohu, not to mention Xavier Howard, Tharamstead, and I know some stuff that's coming up. They got big things coming, man. Shout out to those boys. All of them are doing great things. I got to get the rest of those boys on. We got to get the rest of those boys on. Ghost and Joe and all those guys. Along
Absolutely.
With Bob. All right. So we're moving on from my man crush to Demetrius Knight Jr. All right. So going over my notes, he was in I think Georgia Tech.
4 years at Georgia Tech, then went to Charlotte.
Yeah, then to Charlotte, then ended up South Carolina. Older prospect. When I say with him, he's a leader. Like everything I read, he's a leader. He's a team captain. Look, the kid's married. He has 2 kids. There's no nonsense with this guy. He's a true Mike middle linebacker. I mentioned the different linebackers. He's a true Mike linebacker, thumper in the middle. Like the lateral agility and the man coverage stuff, he's not as fluid as some of these other guys. But you put him in the middle of your defense, slips and sheds well, just a downhill hitter, big frame, true middle linebackers. It's hard to find true middle linebackers, and he ran 4.58. I think he's one of the most underrated prospects in this draft, Demetrius Knight Jr. I saw him in some rankings where he's like a 4th or 5th round. Heck no, man.
Day 2 pick.
This is a day 2 pick put on the film. And again, his age will hurt him, Jason, because you know it's a red flag in the scouting circles. But he's got great maturity. He's a leader of men. And he's what you want your middle linebacker to be the quarterback and captain of your defense. He fills those needs.
I think he's just a safe, steady prospect, probably 80 to 100 range, but I do think he's going to be a good pro. Might not destroy a stat sheet, but I think he's going to be a solid linebacker.
Shout out to the Fins Talk Sports Network and them boys. We always combine. We always do some commingling. We have each other on the show. Check them out. Give them a subscribe and a like. Check out all their work. They cover everything, not just Dolphins. They got Heat. They got wrestling. They got college football. They got everything. If you want more than Dolphins, you go over there and check those boys out. Good friends of the program. Mel Kiper's crush is Sean Dalton. He said he's a Zach Thomas clone.
A fellow Buffalo Bull, such as myself. I am an alum of SUNY Buffalo.
You didn't bring him. Yeah, you didn't bring him up to me, Jason.
Well,
no, I've heard of him. I've seen that. I've seen that. He's an interesting guy. He really is. But faster with 180 tackles and 5 interceptions. Yeah, day 3. Those are the kind of guys we have. Multiple day 3 picks. And let me explain something to you about this draft. All right, everybody's watching. The reason they say this draft's weak, and you would agree, Jason, is the top of the draft, right? Like it's not elite prospects at the top, but rounds 3, rounds 4, rounds 5. I think there's a tremendous. This is the last year of like the whole COVID thing or something, where there's more prospects who's entered this draft. Like since probably the COVID year, it's around I think 2,100 prospects or something. I think the norm is like 700 or 800. I forgot where I heard that from. So there's going to be guys even who get undrafted that were draftable players.
Every year
it's a good year to have those 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks. Get more of them. Get many as you can.
The Dolphins, the last couple of years, when they've had those 4 or 3 or picks in a draft, it hurts your depth. Now they're going to be able to get some depth, get some competition in there. You never know in the next man up situation what 7th rounder could make a team and then get an opportunity. And again, special teams, we're going to start talking maybe in 1 or 2 of these next couple of guys, big time special teams potential. And that's what you want to look at as well. So, there's definitely talent out there. I love the talent in like 90 to 150. You got a good amount of opportunity to get some really good players. And the Dolphins have 10 picks.
Yeah. So anything else to add on Demetrius or?
No, steady Eddie player. Just he's gonna be a good player.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's underrated. All right. All right, Barrett Carter. You want to start on Barrett?
Yeah, no, I love his ability to do something the Dolphins have not been able to do for a long time, and that's spy a quarterback, a mobile quarterback. I mean, look at the AFC. Look at the amount of quarterbacks who could beat you with their arm and their legs. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. It's been a very big Achilles heel, no pun intended, not to talk injury, on the Dolphins defense. So he's a guy who could be in that middle and, take care of a mobile quarterback. And he's going in that third round area. So he could be a guy that is a really savvy pick for the Dolphins. He 21 passes defended in his 4 years at Clemson, 12 and a half sacks, 33 tackles for loss. So he gets all over the place. 3-down linebacker. Good player.
Yeah. What I like about Barrett is he started, I think he played running back in high school. Yeah, he was the one that played running back in high school. The thing I like him on the strong side, right? The first thing when I watched him is, what's funny is when I watch a player, like what I'll do is then I'll go compare it to like with what other people think. And the first thing that what I saw was he reads the quarterback's eyes, like over and over again. And he's one of the few guys I like on the strong side. We mentioned the strong side. You line up over the tight end. He's physical in the run game. He's physical enough to set the edge. He attacks the gaps in the A and B gap, plays downhill. Timed at 4.64 actually recently in his pro day. So he's a defense. He's a quarterback of the defense. He's one of these guys can quarterback your defense. And he's one of the few guys I like on the strong side. Plays real physical. Like he can handle the tight end. He blitzes real good cadence and timing on his blitzes. I'm a big fan of Barrett Carter. Where you say linebackers usually tend to like heat up around 3, round 4. If you're not a top guy, you probably won't even get picked in the second round. It's a position kind of like running back. It drops down a little bit. So like if he goes in the 4th round, it wouldn't surprise me. But I'm a big fan of his. The thing is, he's got the size and strength to play inside, but he seems to lose that instinctual stuff when he moves inside. Kind of, he doesn't like some of these other guys, like a Schwarzenegger, is not as quick as processing. So I like him on the strong side. Put him over the tight end. Send him to blitz. He's good against the run. So yeah, big fan of Garrett. Round 3, round 4. I wouldn't hate it. I think he would play early on for you.
Oh, for sure. That's his spot. I mean, if you want to put him at like 100, 110, yeah, he's been going
like
in some cases.
One of those 2 4th-round picks you got, Oh,
100%. That's perfect sweet spot.
All right, let's move on. You want to talk about Chris Paul Jr.? You want me to go?
I'll give a start. In another situation the Dolphins have not done very well at, it's covering the tight ends. He can cover the tight end quite well. He's also I'm going to start my banging on the chest for special team dog. He is a special teams monster. This guy has 300 snaps at special teams, so you could definitely think of him making his name and making a team as a rookie on special teams and getting a chance to play good linebacker. And again, you look at those tight ends that the Dolphins have had. The worst thing that the Dolphins have is a mobile quarterback with a good tight end, So this is a player who could, I think, and so is Barrett, who could at least take away one of those or both of those components. Yeah. So I like him against the tight end.
I had to check if he was Chris Paul's son before I.
No.
Because he kind of looked like him, but he's another quarterback of the defense, right? You said he covers well. What he's really good at. Right, he's really good at recognizing pre-snap stuff. Like he picks it up quick, route recognition and zone coverage. He picks up really well. He's also a really underrated blitzer. I think he doesn't blitz a lot, but he's had like 11 pressures, and only like I don't know how many. It wasn't that many I saw. So like that ratio is pretty good. The instincts he has, his pre-snap stuff is impressive. Which says too small, too slow. But again, 4.63, yeah, he's small. But again, when you were able to recognize things quicker, you get to the ball quicker than there's some guys. For example, Channing Tindall runs a 4.41. I promise you, this guy will get to the ball 20 times faster than Channing Tindall. 4.63 is plenty good enough. He takes good. His angles on his tackles are really good. Right, that's another thing. Some guy have poor angles. He takes good angles. So whether he's not a 4.5, 4.44 guy, his angles and his ability to recognize the play quickly and diagnose lets him get to the spot quicker. And nobody was better. I mean, he's not Zach Thomas. I'm not saying that, but like giving you an example of how Zach did it at 4.7. You would think Zach ran a 4.4 because he was always there. And when you have that kind of ability and instinct, you're allowed to get to the ball. That makes up for a lot. I mean, again, Channing Tindall, as fast as all can be. You have to have a certain number. 4.63 is plenty fine enough. His length and size do concern me, but I like he's a fluid athlete, good change of direction. Again, special teams, another player. 4th round, 5th round, third to 5, 3 to 4. They're all kind of the same range here, these guys we're talking about. David Long.
The size could send him down, but he's been, in that day 2 potential. If he drops into day 3, it'll be in the early 4th round, probably.
Yeah, he's got some of the best route recognition for a linebacker. Yeah. All that stuff means stuff. When you're able to sniff it out, it means a lot more than I think people think. All right.
Put him on a tight end.
Yep, let's do it. All right, next guy. All right, so I'm a big fan.
Go ahead.
Big fan. I've been a big fan of his for a while. This is a former safety. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about coverage skills, Dolphins don't have great coverage at linebacker, right? He is very fluid in coverage, and that comes from being a safety. The hip movement, the fluidity, to be able to transition from the pedal to the top works with him. He's one of the better ones in the class about him. Was at the Senior Bowl, and he's really good for a guy his size, really good hand usage and hand fighting to shed blocks to kind of weave through traffic. I noticed that. I think he's also really, really good blitzer. I think his best will be the safety skills that intrigue me, that play a linebacker. He's a smaller frame guy, but for coverage wise, he's one of the better ones. That's why I like him, Jason.
I love those converts, especially the safety to linebacker who could do a little bit of both. Coverage play up in the box. He is, and I hate overusing this phrase, but he is a potential chess piece kind of player. You know what I mean? So I like him. I know you have that proclivity for him too. So I like that. Also, special teams, another beast of a special teamer potentially.
You know what's another great thing about this kid? He played inside linebacker, out of position, so they can get the best 3 guys in the field. So he's a team first guy. He showed that he could play a little bit of that, but he's more of me, a weak side linebacker. You know what I mean? In that, like where Jerome Baker played, but with better pass coverage skills than Jerome Baker. But you know what I mean? Like he's more of that will linebacker, that weak side where he can pursue and chase. But he played out of position, so he's a good team player. The frame is small, right? But that's kind of where the linebacker, these will outside linebackers that can run and chase, they're kind of in that 6'1", 230 range, right? Like they're bigger safeties, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's a good day 2. Well, he's probably going to be in the round 4 range.
Which he could gain some weight and beat Thomas Davis from Carolina. That was he had a heck of a career, right? Thomas Davis from Carolina. All right, I think this is our last linebacker. I'll let you start off with him. Danny Stutzman. You want me to go or you go?
Go for it. You like this guy.
All right. So, throwback. He's a throwback, old school linebacker, thumper, true Mike inside guy. Another special teamer. Big size, 6'3", 233. Ran really well at 4.52. He's just an old school middle linebacker, Jason. Somebody you'll love. I know you love special team guys, so.
100%. He's a prototypical kind of football player, downhill linebacker. Definitely do special teams coverage too. Beast special teamer. I love his size as well.
Yeah, throwback. That's when I looked at him, throwback. You know what I mean? And I love him. Like again, round 4, round 5.
Maybe sneak into round 3. I mean, look, a lot of the players that we talk about are like top 100, 150 players. Yeah. Sure. So that's where we're kind of staying, but he's probably in that round 3 range.
All right. So that racks up the linebacker group. Good group. Not a ton of depth in this group, but I can see the Dolphins maybe dipping their toes to get their fingers in. Some I would say more honestly in that 5th, 6th, 7th round. they might look at linebacker.
No, the funny thing is he slipped. He was at like the 80 range, and then he kind of dipped into like the 110, 115 range. So, you'd love to see him in day 2, but he might be a day 4. Round 4 candidate.
Yeah. Don't tell me to drop under 4 days now. We're 3 days is
exactly.
I like the old school. It was 2 days in the weekend all day.
That was awesome back in the day when you had the whole weekend. That was amazing.
All right, so before we get to the safety group, the group that really I think the Dolphins are going to be looking at, guys, if you're watching anywhere else but YouTube, come on over. Zach Punt. Come on over to YouTube. Please help support the channel. It just takes really one quick second to subscribe and hit the like button on the video. We appreciate it so much. All right, you ready to get into the safety group?
Let's rock.
I'll let you start up top. I know you love this group up top. I don't love the depth. But after these guys, I don't love it. It takes a drop, right, Jason?
There's 5 or 6 guys that are really in that top class, but there is a little bit of a dip. You're not going to find probably a depth safety here that's going to be a startable player once you get to round 4 or 5. So It's the top 3 rounds we're really looking at.
So there's 2 guys we're probably looking at 13. He's one of them. I'll let you start here, Jason, with Nick Amonwori.
He might not be the absolute best safety prospect. The next guy we'll probably be talking about is Malachi Starks, but athletic freak. I think he could be, an absolute game changer, versatile. He's my guy. He's my pick for if the Dolphins go with a safety and trade down and go with a safety. That would be a phenomenal situation. So he and Kenneth Grant are my trade down and still get him in the early 20s or mid 20s wish. But I love his athleticism, and I think he could be an instant impact. This is the chess piece player for,
he's crazy.
For Anthony Weaver.
He's unbelievable. 6'3", 220, 438, and let's talk about the 43-inch vertical and the 11.6 broad jump. I mean, he is your typical size, speed, strength, athleticism freak at that position. Now, it's interesting, right? Because there's 2 safeties. We'll talk about the next one. I don't know if this is like Melifonwu kind of fits the bill a little bit of what this kid is. No?
But again,
I know,
linebackers, the safeties are good, not great. I mean, am I happy that the Dolphins addressed the safety position? Yeah, sure. But did they find a Pro Bowl or All-Pro type player? No.
Again, it's like the linebacker position.
Correct.
But this is more of a need.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I would rather pick him because I like the upside here. But I think the next guy is the guy that, if I had to say who's a Chris Greer guy, but just he's not like the difference between him and, spoiler alert, Malachi Starks, we're going to talk about now, is the deep coverage stuff, the fluidity in the hips. One's more of a true free safety. This guy could play in the box, could play deep. He's adequate in coverage, but he's not the fluid kind of man coverage skills of some of the other safeties in this draft. But nobody has the athleticism, the down and he can play over the top. Like I said, don't mistake it. Even though he's big, 6'3", 220, he's not a linebacker. He can play over the top. He has excellent range, but he's also where he separates himself is physical downhill in the box. And he isn't. You want to talk about tight ends, Jason? He will be a nightmare matchup for tight ends. That's why I would like him the most, I think.
I mean, athleticism-wise, he was the number 1 ranked safety of all safeties ranked in Kent Lee Platt. He does this great RAS, this athleticism score.
Yeah, it's great.
And he was a perfect 10.00. Perfect. So
let's turn the card in.
That's the turn. Run.
Wait, hey, we'll be doing another mock draft soon. So not today, but we might move him up on board, huh? You're selling me on him.
He's the kind of guy that
he's in play.
If he's drafted at 13, great. But if for whatever reason they happen, and I'll say it a million times, if the Dolphins do trade down and he is the pick at 21, 2, 3, 4, my Lord, was that a phenomenal way to begin.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the other guy we keep teasing. If I said, if I put some true serum in Chris Greer, who does Chris Greer like? Jason, it's Malachi Starks, right?
He's so fluid. I mean, he's not as athletic as Amonwari, but when you look at what he did at just the combine and his tape, he is so smooth. So smooth.
He's a true free safety. What stands out to me, and there's this one play against Clemson, is his ability to track the ball deep, and his body fluid and control, his body function and body control in the air is spectacular. I suggest everybody to turn on the tape or find a YouTube clip of him in that interception versus Clemson. 3-year starter, true free safety, great football IQ, fluid hips and coverage, smooth. I think this is the guy they would need more. Like you said, I don't want to lose a great player for a good player or let a good player stop me from getting a great player. But I can see this is a guy they need more back there. This is a true deep safety center fielder, 3-year starter. Let me explain something. What separates a solid DB to a really good one is when their back's turned, can they turn around, have the body control and angle to intercept or make a play on the ball? That's the difference between an average corner like a Kader Kohu and an Xavier Howard, right? An average safety like a Deshaun Elliott to a Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's the ability to be able to turn. Everybody, when you see the guy with their back to the ball, that's probably an average to below average safety in the NFL or corner. When you see a guy able to turn their body, turn around, make a play on the ball, have the functional athleticism to do it, is when they're special. That's what excites me about him, is his ability downfield. He could put a lid on the cover too. He's that kind of player. Not physical, like you said, he's not overly physical like a Emon Warrior or some of these other guys, but man, reliable tackler. He played a ton of nickel. I remember when Minkah Fitzpatrick with that whole thing when he came out, played a lot of nickel. It never happened, right? I'm not saying he's Minkah Fitzpatrick, but they had that nickel, and sometimes it never works out. But he had, I think, 271 snaps in the slot last year. So he has the feet and the ability to cover. So yeah, my gut, I didn't think they were going to take Chop last year. So maybe I don't know anything what they're doing in the building, but my gut says this is a guy Chris Grier loves, right?
For sure. He loves his DBs. You know that. There's nothing wrong with picking Starks over Emanwari or Emanwari over Starks in my mind. To me, it's Coke and Pepsi. What do you like better? They're both great. They're both staples. They both could do the job. But people have a preference for whatever which way. Starks is probably going to be drafted before Emanwari. That's fine. But either player, I think, would fit immediately in Miami's system and scheme and be phenomenal players. No problem with either of these guys. If they go safety in the first round, it's either one of these two guys.
Yeah, I think that's it. And the rest we're going to talk about here, probably after here now, the next few guys we're looking at 48, right? And let's move on to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 guys that you could.
You want to go with you want to start with Xavier Watts?
I love his leadership.
Yeah, I know you love
his versatility. I love a player like him who can play in the box and be an impact in the run game. Smart, intelligent football player. Having that Notre Dame background. I think that if they go Grant or if they go with a defensive lineman, if you bookend that in the second round with Xavier Watts, that's phenomenal way to start in a 1-2 punch.
Yeah. He came as a wide receiver to Notre Dame. And, okay, ball production and ball skill is phenomenal. He had, in the last 2 years, 13 interceptions. 2023, 7 picks. 2024, 6 picks. And it's probably from the wide receiver skills that he has, probably has helped him. I think he's big in play at 48, Jason.
100%.
I think he's versatile, really good. Again, another guy who anticipates routes well. These are the things that get you. You add hands and the wide receiver hands and the ability to kind of anticipate the routes. He's just got, elite ball skills and instinct. Elite, maybe right up there with Starks for this position. I think he's in play at 48.
Absolutely in play at 48. The Dolphins need turnovers. They have very good DBs, but they need turnovers. They've had the 22nd ranked team last year in creating interceptions. Ty Dotson was their leader as a linebacker in minimal games with interceptions. So ball hawking DBs are of huge importance, and he is a guy who can turn the ball over and get the ball back for your offense.
Yeah, you make a great point. That's one thing this defense lacks.
Got to create turnovers in this league, man.
We thought we were going to get it from Holland. I mean, we haven't had it from, since Xavier Howard at the corner position. Like, this kid actually fits. The more I think about it, the more I like him at 48, if he's even there, right? He's going to be – that's kind of the range he's going to be playing at. All right. Anything else on Xavier Watts?
Nah, good. 48 would be a phenomenal place for him.
All right. Talk about this kid. This is the injury.
I mean, again, we touched on it earlier when you have an ACL a couple of months ago inside a year, and he's putting up a 4.45 or a 4.5. Absolutely. In 2023, he had a real good year. Definitely made a name for himself. 5 passes defended, a couple of picks, I believe. 5 passes defended, a pick, couple tackles for loss. He's a round 3 guy, probably with the injury, but round 2 talent, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing I love about him, first of all, he has the NFL traits. He has starter traits. You know how many tackles he's missed in his career, Jason? Take a guess.
0.
1.
You set me up for it. That's
he's
ridiculous.
One of the better tacklers I've seen. I'm gonna go out and say this. He's one of the better, just reliable, pure, fundamental tacklers I've seen in the last few years at the safety position. Like, I'll go on a limb and say that. You're buying NFL traits with a sure tackler, right? That you can work with. Let's get him in the building with Anthony Weaver. Now, he doesn't have instincts of a Watts. He doesn't have the instincts of a Starks. And you mentioned he missed most of the 24 season. He tore his ACL in September, but then he came and ran a 4.50. And we mentioned that if that was a deterrent, it's only the further you move yourself away from that injury, he might be in the 4.45 range, in 6 months.
It became probably a non-issue. I mean, obviously, always
it's not an issue.
It's a non-issue. It's like, but he ran a 4.5. So
there's hip tightness, but for me, a 6'1.5", 215-pound guy who's missed 1 tackle in his career, playing at a high level at Penn State, the traits and the ability to tackle, I can work around the other stuff. Late round 2, if you trade back in round 2 and you get this guy, I wouldn't complain, right? If it's in the 60s, I wouldn't complain. Late, if he's 61, something like that. I think that's where he starts getting mentioned. You agree around that range, but you said, I agree with you, day 3, but really, day 3, round 3, but really a round 2 kind of player, right?
Pretty much. I mean, if it wasn't for the ACL, I know what we just said, but that is something that's on the charts. He's a round 2 talent. He's a top 16 talent. Top
Tremendous.
Talent.
Tremendous. Big fan. All right. And he has a great teammate we didn't mention, Jalen Reed. Probably a little bit later on in the draft, right? I like Winston better, but
a round or 2 later.
Yeah. Could be round 3, round 4. Reed ran a 4.49 we mentioned earlier in the pro days. All right, Jason. Go ahead, man. We talked about man crush. This is your man crush.
If you're gonna hope to get a 3rd round safety and an athletic freak to boot, it's this guy. He might not be the best size, but he'll make up for it in his instinct and his speed. He is an absolute athletic marvel. So if you're circling 98 for him, that would be an absolute steal. I happen to think he'll be a little bit higher than that, but he is one of those freak athletes, man, that you would love on your football team. Fast as can be, closing speed.
Yeah, 4-year starter. Love that, right? I know the Dolphins love that. But you mentioned the frame. It is lean, right? But this guy punches above his weight. Like
nice. I like that.
Yeah, like like a boxer, right? He punches above the weight. And the thing about him is going into it, I kind of had this preconceived notion that I wasn't going to like him because, I watch college football, but I don't watch a ton of it during the season because we're covering the show. So it's for me when I get into the offseason and break these guys down, I thought for the frame, I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to love him. The more I watched, I was like, yeah, Jason has a point here. He's a playmaker, all right? Yeah. And there's some guys who are just natural playmakers. He's one of them. He's really good in zone coverage. He closes. He's got good burst. Ran 4.45. Again, the play strength in the frame are concerning. But if you're looking for a safety up top to make plays, another free safety, something kind of we need, he kind of fits that boat. And if he's there at 98, I know you'll be excited, but I'd be more excited than I originally thought I would. To me, he's just a playmaker. He just plays bigger than his size. There's a couple guys on here, and he's one of them.
I mentioned that the Dolphins need playmakers. Get the ball back. He's somebody who could do that.
Yeah, he was a Clemson transfer, by the way. So yeah, again, we both like this kid. You liked him even before I did. Would you say he's on your man crush list?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
he's on the man crush list. Okay, good.
For
We're
sure.
going to make a list. I'll make a little nice, cute graphic.
We'll
for
do
that,
a list.
with some hearts.
No hearts. No hearts. No hearts.
Okay, no hearts. No hearts. All right. Next guy. Oh, this is
This
one
is
of
your
my
guy.
guys.
This
All
is
right.
your guy.
All right. So let me get to the mic and tell you how much I love this dude. I
He's
love
moving up on the
Billy. There's only a few guys I go to the mic for, right? And this is one of them. I said this in the thing in the scouting report. If he was 6 foot, 205, he's a first round pick. Missile. He's a ball. Jason. He flies to the ball. I mean, he ran 4.42. Another guy we talk about plays bigger and punches above her weight. This is another guy. Nickel versatility. Can play in the nickel. Play up top. Change of direction. The burst. He's fun to watch, man. He's one of these guys that it's just like he's a missile on the field. Like he's a heat-seeking missile for a guy who's 5'10", 192. The tackling can be inconsistent because I think the arm length hurts that. But again, the size and the length is a concern. How concerned are you with his size, Jason? Is that going to drop him down, you think?
It's going to drop him down, yeah. I mean, he's going to be maybe even outside of the top 100, but it's because of the size, but he makes up for it with that missile, that heat-seeking, that speed. So I know you loved him. He did well for himself, I think, at the Senior Bowl, but it's, you look 5'10" build, 192. It's a little lighter than some, and I think, you look at Makuba, who's, I think, a much better athlete, than Bowman. So that might push Bowman down a little bit further than a McCool.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're kind of on the same level athletically, but the thing with him is he plays with an aggression, for his size, right? He's one of those guys that got that dog in him. He had 11 interceptions in his career, 3 return for touchdowns. Like he's just, he finds it. He can move the chains the other way. Again, another guy who can, it's a theme here when the Dolphins need it. Another guy, big fan of his, could be a 98 pick 98 option. I think starts there, and then you're looking at those 2 4th-round picks are kind of where I think he lives in that kind of range.
That works.
All right.
I'll hit off with him because he's my type of player too.
Yeah, you like him. This is a physical guy.
This is a physical guy. He can play deep. He can play nickel. He can play in run support. He also can make a difference blocking kicks on special teams. He has a pair of them from a couple of years ago, blocked a few punts. He's a good blitzer. He's kind of that great mix of the next tier down. You know what I mean? If you want to kind of settle after the top 5, he's probably the best of the next bunch that I would consider in that, I think he's after 98. I think he's one of those round 4 picks. If you utilize one of those round 4 picks on him, if he dips to the 5th round and he happens to be a 5th round pick, that's an absolute steal. Yeah. He will make a football team and be a factor on special teams, bare minimum, as a rookie.
He's a big hitter. What I liked about him is he's not the rangiest guy. He doesn't have the ball production of these other guys we talked about, Makuba, Billy Bowman, the top guys we talked about. It's not there, and that concerns some teams. But what I like about him, and I put it in the report, is I watch plays, and he changes the game. He changes the momentum. He's a tone changer on the field, and he's a true strong safety, right? This guy, more comfortable at strong safety than free safety. I like him. I said, if you can get somebody like this in the 5th round, I don't think he makes it to the 5th, Jason, but like 4th round range again. Look, if we miss these guys, if we're not able to fill everything, if your board falls and the other needs come in, or just too good of a players, like you dress defensive tackle, you dress the line of scrimmage, and you live with a Ransom or a Bowman or a Makuba, I'm fine adding. That's good enough for me in the safety room, right? Like if you miss out on these top guys, right?
If you're going to try to plan on going around the safety position, hopefully trying to land one day 3, and he's your guy, then it's a phenomenal draft strategy. But make no mistake, he is not one of the elite of the positions in this draft. There might be 3 of them, 4 of them, but he's just outside of it. But I'm fine with his potential and ability, multi-phase football player.
Yeah, last guy, Jonas Sanker. You want to start?
That's your boy. Yeah, go for it, brother.
Okay. All right. Jonas is – what's interesting about him is he played a ton in the nickel, a ton. And he's really good. What he stands out at, and this is what the Dolphins need, is his ability to cover not only tight ends, but big receivers. Now, here's my question about him. And he also plays downhill in the run support from safety position or the nickel. Here's my question. I don't know if he has the foot speed or the flexibility. I know he ran 4.48. If that will translate playing that slot position in the NFL. But I'm intrigued by it. Again, 4th, 5th round, I'm intrigued by that potential. He's real downhill in the run game. Another guy who come in the run game and plays real downhill, closes fast. I like the versatility that he played some nickel. And he also, one thing about him is, again, we talk about instincts, but his ability is more to diagnose quickly what's happening in the run game from the safety position. And he just attacks downhill. And he also does it from the nickel. It's intriguing.
An intriguing day 3 player for sure with upside. That would be, I think, the best way to put it.
Yeah, I like him. Early day 3 guy. Again, safety class for me. Good at the top, better than I thought. Drops off probably after this group. There's a few more guys. I know there's a linebacker you liked out of a special teamer. You're kind of a late round scout special.
I'll tell you what, man. I love guys who could.
Hey, shout out to our boy Darius Maxwell.
Absolutely. One
Great
of the top speed burners. Great interview, Darius.
Yeah, go check out our Darius Maxwell. Wishing him all the best. We support him. We're following his career. We'll probably have Darius on again. But yeah, go ahead. With your
Darius isn't necessarily a wide receiver. He's an offensive playmaker, offensive weapon. Yeah. That's his position.
He's positionless.
Exactly right. But no, just to get back to a linebacker I like on special teams, you got a guy from Iowa, Jay Higgins, who's a dog tackler, who I think that if there would be a player potentially to be the special teams rookie king making a team that we could all love, Jay Higgins from Iowa.
Yeah, so Higgins will be a guy we're definitely going to have to be that's a scout special, Jason Sarney special.
Hey, man, when you get to day 3 and round 7, if you don't get excited for pumping up a guy who can make a difference on special teams, what are we even doing here?
Yeah. Man, we got almost 80 people in the room. Come over on the YouTube. Guys, please, if you're watching anywhere else, come hit that little subscribe button. Help us out. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. That wraps up this show, right, Jason? We went through the safeties in the linebackers. Do we know next week? Are we going? We haven't really.
I think we got to have some fun with wide receivers.
We're getting guys. Now we're getting sexy. We're going. The skill positions are coming, right? Have we decided where we're going here? The next round, we'll leave it in the air.
Well, good pun for wide receivers and tight ends for those jump balls. As Jack Besh said, his jump balls are 75-25, not 50-50. So we're doing some wide receivers next week, George.
We're doing wide receivers?
Let's do
you
wide
heard the man. Do we have something special coming up this Wednesday?
You know what? For those,
should we tell them?
If you want to break the ice, I was going to do a little bit of a tease, but you can break the ice.
No, we'll tease it.
One of the best in the business in the community will be joining us, and rumor is we might even be doing a mock draft with him.
Yeah, rumor is there will be a 3-way war room with the mock draft with one of the top guys in the community here on YouTube. We'll let you know the final details and stuff. We'll get it out there. We don't want to. It's pretty much
letter D. The letter D comes to mind. There's a couple of D's. Think D.
Be careful. Don't think too much D.
Okay, fine.
Anyways, yeah, it's going to be a fun one. And then we'll be back Thursday. And as Jason just broke it, we're doing wide receivers, so we're getting sexy here. So we're talking man crush, hard, sexy. What's going on with this, Jason? We got to get back in.
It must be the weekend. It must be Friday here.
It must be this new Friday show. And how do you guys like it on Friday, right? We usually do it on Thursday, so it was different. It was kind of fun. Thank you, Beach. Thank to everybody in the chat that came. We guys, we appreciate anybody who watches this show. There's a lot of great content to watch out there. If you guys have spent your Friday night with us, you don't know how much we appreciate it. We put a lot of hard work behind the scenes, not to pat ourselves on the back. But when we see the support from the people, the other fans, just like us, that's all we are, right? Our fans and have an opportunity to put this show out there. It means a lot. So I know we could be annoying asking for subscriptions or but it's kind of what we have to do. And I know I do. I know Jason does. Each and every person that spends a minute watching this show, I appreciate it so much. I mean, you can be anywhere else, doing anything else, watching anything else. So thank you, Beach. So thanks everybody. I think that's a good way to wrap it up and some positivity, right?
Absolutely. Listen, positivity is huge. Negativity is not. That's a simple formula. Support each other's work. You mentioned guys like the Dive Bar on their podcast. I don't care if there's 5,000 podcasts out there.
Yeah.
You want to make a pod, do a pod. It's awesome. I think that the community is huge. Support people. Don't bring people down. And that's what you do, George. You do phenomenal work, and every single person I see in this chat room. Cut from that mold.
That's the one thing I love about this channel is it's people really understand. They see the passion we have, and there's a lot of channels, so make sure you come to the on season first.
Absolutely.
Right? All right, guys. Enjoy your Friday night. Jason, we'll be back Thursday. And like the man said, Jason's favorite position to do is the wide receiver. So that'll be next week. As guys, always, we're out. We'll see you next time.